Remember Adam said that we need a jingle. Howdy, everyone, and welcome to the Praise the Pickle podcast midweek special extravaganza.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah, the EGX special. So, yeah, me and Daniel went to EGX on Saturday. And what did you think of it, Dan?
I had a blast.
Yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's so good. So many
Yeah.
talented people in a room.
Yeah, it was
Ourselves
amazing.
included, of course.
Yeah. We were basically the stars of the show, to be honest.
Yeah. People saw us and recognised us and were asking for Praise the Pickle autographs. It was great.
Just got swarmed. It was mad. So, yeah, we played a hell of a lot of games there, which we weren't expecting. I was expecting there to be massive queues. It's both our first times, but we managed to. I mean, we're both obviously quite big indie game fans, so we managed to jump onto all the indie games we wanted to, pretty much. So, what we're going to do today, we're going to go through all the games we played in order, and then we are going to compile a top 6 list, which I know that sounds bizarre, but the reason why it's top 6 is because we're going to take turns in picking one until we have our final top 6 games of EGX, top 6 games that we're most buzzed for, you know? So let's just jump straight into it. Mr. Daniel, would you like to start with your first game?
Sure. We're going to go in roughly chronological order. So as soon as we walked in, the Team 17 post was right around the corner. So we jumped on the first available station, which was a game called Monster Sanctuary, developed by Moiray Games and published by Team 17. This was an odd one. It was kind of a side-scrolling pixel art Pokemon type game. So you played as a person that jumped around, and there were monsters in the world that were floating about, and you had a little pet following you for the start. And by touching an enemy, you'd enter your standard Pokemon turn-based combat type system and have a little back and forth. There's a chance that when you kill something, it will drop an egg, and you can hatch that egg, and then that thing also follows you around. And some people had like 5 or 6 creatures following them. It was an odd game.
It did look a bit odd.
Yeah, it was. I can see the appeal. I can see the market for it, but I think the unique selling point of it. I mean, it had some platforming elements as well, which you don't get in a Pokemon game. But I think the unique selling point was the depth of progression within each creature that you pick up and have follow you. So each one has like 3 or 4 different skill trees, and you can choose their builds and whatnot. And you can also equip them with weapons. It was all a bit odd, really. Like at one point, I had a dog following me, and I picked up a Morning Star, like one of those big old medieval maces. And I was like, "What do I do with this?" And I gave it to my dog. And just walking around with a Morning Star. You didn't see it on the character or anything, but it was just a bit strange. The variety of weapons and gear you could equip your creatures with.
It seems a bit odd that it's being published by Team 17
because it seem like
feels it feels like a Flash game. Do you know what I mean? It feels like one of those games that were on like Miniclip. Miniclip, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I would say that if it didn't have the depth to it, it clearly had quite a lot of depth. And
but that's the sort of depth that it's that's the sort of depth that's provided by like numbers, and do you know what I mean? It's not the sort of depth as in like advanced storytelling and things like that.
No.
The depth just sort of seems to be you can catch loads of things, but if it's all just flash, that's not that amazing, if that makes sense.
Like, there was a lot of customization, and I'm sure like later in the game there's some evolution mechanics and things I would expect.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad game, it just wasn't really for me.
Yeah, it was It didn't
Yeah,
look amazing, I have to say, but I didn't play it, so I'm not, I'll keep my opinion to myself.
a very niche
Um,
game, I think.
yeah, definitely seen that. So next game, still in the Team 17 section, whilst Dan was playing, I was like, it's not fair. Dan gets to play a game and I don't. So I jumped onto another cubicle, I guess you can call it, and picked up Moving Out, which is another Team 17 game, obviously, and it's developed by SMG Studio and oh god, DEVM Games, Devim Games.
Is that a typo or?
No, no, that's actually how you spell it.
Oh, okay.
I just yeah. So I if you okay, so this game you basically play as a removal service. So obviously, if you imagine Overcooked, that chaos that happens in Overcooked in the kitchen,
Hmm.
stupid stuff happening everywhere and throwing burgers at each other and all sorts. It's like that, but in a removal service style. And it's basically you get your little team gets hired to pack everything up from a house and move it to their new house or whatever. And you basically go in and throw beds out of windows and get chased around by pianos and ninja turtles. And it was brilliant, man. It was so good. It was one of those really fun, like co-op, quick, fun, laughy experiences, where you just don't it doesn't take itself too
No,
seriously, but it still has that score chasing mechanic where you want to get free stars on everything,
but
and yeah, it was great.
you sat down by yourself initially, and I think you
Yeah,
were saying that you were struggling to move like a bed or a sofa or something.
yeah. I was trying to pull a bed out of the door, and basically I went up to. I didn't even have to look at the controls. I literally just picked up the control and I was like, right, okay, that's jump and that's grab, cool, and I ran in and went, all right, I'm going to take this bed out because obviously I need to move the bed. And as I grabbed it, a little icon came above it saying two people, and I was like, oh, okay. So one of the people, obviously I don't think he's a developer, but whoever the Team 17 people were that were there, one of them sat down with me and played with me, and it was really fun.
Yeah, and then I was distracted by your game because it seemed like you were having far more fun than I was. So I walked over and looked over your shoulder, and the dude that was playing with you handed the controller to me, and we ended up doing a three-player runner. It
Yeah,
took
so
about
it's
10
up to
seconds to pick it up, but it was
yeah, it's great. It's a sort of
such a
like it's
laugh.
kind of like a party game, isn't it? Where you can
Totally,
just sort
yeah,
of like just chuck a controller to someone and they'll pretty much know what to do straight away. So
yeah. Nice
yeah,
little
that
bit
was
of
that was
humor in there, and yeah, we were having a great laugh on that. I only played for a few minutes,
yeah. I'll
but
definitely be picking that up. That's
immediately,
yeah,
yeah, hit the spot
good
that one.
fun. Right, and then we started going back down, away from the bigger indie publishers, and we went into like the depths of the indie games. So Dan, would you like to talk about the next one?
This one caught me off guard.
Same.
I had no idea this was coming. It's a game called Unto the End, and it's developed by three people. They form a studio called Two Ton Studios. Um, Sarah, Stephen, and Francesco were their names. It's published by a publisher called Big Sugar. Oh, where to start with this one? It's it's a side-scrolling, narrative-driven, hardcore game set in, I guess, like a medieval type Dark
I think it was like
Soulsy setting.
yeah, I think it was like Viking, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, that sounds more
I
accurate.
think yeah.
Yeah, that
I might
kind
just be
of.
assuming that because he was quite big and had a
And
beard, but
yeah.
but yeah,
so so you start off like I think you start off at a campfire or something. Doesn't really tell you much. You're kind of wandering about and in these caves. It's got a really beautiful art style. Like even in the caves, it's the lighting is really nicely done. The audio,
yeah.
the sound design is perfect. It's on point. And you progress through the level a little bit. You climb down the ladder, and you come across your first enemy. And this is where it first introduces you to their combat system, which really does stand out amongst the crowd. It's
Just a bit.
totally hardcore. Like it really is a deep combat system. And to me and you played it at the same time, Ben, and we had
Yeah, yeah.
slightly different experiences going through it, which was interesting.
Mm.
So I climbed down the ladder, and kind of tumbled off the bottom of the ladder. I don't know what happened. I must have let go early or done a roll or something. And my character dropped his sword on the floor, and I hadn't realized. So I go running up to this troll type thing and go to reach for my sword to pull it out and fight him, and it's not there. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I have to turn around and run for my sword and pick it up. And it's really beautifully done. The camera kind of shifts into place and zooms in, and there's this really solid feedback. But there's parrying and rolling and dodging and counters and ripostes, and it feels good. Like it feels really, really good. And it's got the Dark Souls mechanics. So you fight the first thing and you kill it. You get to a campfire, and at the first campfire, I don't want to spoil too much, but you have a bit of a flashback, and this is where it takes you to a completely different environment, which is quite lush, serene. It seems to be where the character is from, like his family history or something. And there's a nice little hut in the background and rolling hills. And you're basically practicing fighting with somebody, and it teaches you the different mechanics. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of there's high blocks,
Yeah,
low blocks, and it's pretty remarkable.
yeah. So there was there's throwing daggers,
Yep.
there's rolls, there's blocks, there's shoulder barges, there's riposte, there's sorry, high and mid blocks, high and low attacks. If you do three blocks in a row that catches them off guard and you can do a bigger hit, there is a lot going
Oh,
on, man.
the fake swing was one of my favorites.
Oh, the fakes, that was
That's
genius.
so
That was
nicely
so good.
done. You basically go to swing your sword in a big overhand throw and stop at the last minute and make them flinch, and then you can kind of change and go for a
Do a
different
lower
type
attack
of
or something.
attack.
Yeah.
It flows together really, really nicely. And I think we can talk about the end of the demo because it's only a short demo. What do you think?
Yeah. Demo. Yeah, we can. This is full. I mean, say it now. This is full spoiler for the demo zone.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
We're gonna go through some of these and really break them down.
yeah.
So you go back into the cave after a bit, and we just happened to go in completely different directions. I went to the right, and you went to the left.
Yeah.
So you got to a lush, snowy forest, and I did a bit more cave exploring first, and then eventually got to the forest. But I think the forest is the most interesting bit. Again, the atmosphere and the visuals are very different, so it really does showcase this diverse art style. And you get into this combat with a guy with a spear, and just out of nowhere, one approaches you from behind. So you kind of turn around and get ready to face this guy in a proper little duel, and then another guy comes from the other direction and launches this spear at you, and it flies at you like it
It's
really,
really fast.
it
Yeah.
really does fly at you.
How
And
many attempts did that take you?
I don't know, two or three. I
Oh, okay.
overheard you
Took me
talking
about
about
10.
the speed of it, so I was kind of ready for it by the second time
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'd heard you talking about how fast it was. But you roll underneath it, and then the spear kind of thrusts into the other guy that you're fighting. He goes flying back onto the ground, and then you
Mm.
turn around and fight this other dude. And yeah, the combat's excellent, really, really is. But I think the bit that really stood out to me, apart from the sound design and the visuals and everything else, was the very last encounter. So you get to the next screen, the next area, and there's this dude. I think he's like hunched over a body or something, and he's got like blood on him, and he looks up at you, and he kind of stands up straight, and he beckons towards you or does these motions towards you, and you're like, oh shit, this is like a boss or something like that. So you go running at him with your sword, and he completely annihilates you like out of nowhere. And you go through him a few times, and you realize that you haven't got a chance against this dude. You probably have. You probably could, work through the fight a few times and eventually get him down. But
Yeah, I think it was doable. It was just very difficult,
it's
but it
just
was
one of
doable.
the, but this is the interesting thing. The guy, I think it was Stephen that spoke to us afterwards, explained that there are many ways to do this. So what we eventually had to do was put our sword away, like actually sheath our sword and slowly walk up to him in a non-threatening way. And he actually stands up and interacts with you and gives you like a gift or something. And it turns out, we don't see this part of the game, but it turns out that that encounter and the way that you approach it is leads into some other things that happen later on. I think it's his brothers or the family of this goblin thing
Yeah, it's
that.
just spoil the hell out of it. So if basically if you walk up to him with no, if you kill the guy, So if you do win against him, then and you loot him afterwards, you get a bloody necklace. And then later, so basically, after this encounter, you meet this guy's dad, and depending on what you happens beforehand, it depends on what happens with the dad. So if you get the bloody necklace and go to the dad, then you have to fight the dad as well. If you pick up if you put your sword away and go towards him, you can just walk straight past him. Or if you did what I did, you walk up to the guy on the floor and you heal him. Then he gives you the necklace as a gift, and then his dad helps you later on. So
I had
it's
no
like,
idea you could even do that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
missed
it's
that
mad.
completely. That's brilliant. But that was one of the most interesting things for me because it really highlights the range of options and just breathes a
Yeah,
lot of life into the characters in the world.
and that
Um,
feels like an extra thing as well, because like I would have been perfectly happy with just that combat
just a
system
boss
and
fight
that
or something.
environment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally,
I
totally.
didn't need anything else. And then the
No,
branching paths came into it, and I was like, "Ooh, hello."
yeah. And then
Yeah,
shortly after that, you get like the closing title sequence and all that. And this one really stood out to me. I thought this was absolutely brilliant, and I
yeah,
cannot wait for it. And they seem like a
yeah. So
really, really pleasant, talented bunch as well.
yeah,
Um,
it was just a husband and wife and a friend or something,
I
wasn't
believe
it? So the
so.
friend did all the music, and then a husband and wife have made it, and it's just
Really beautiful game. Really, really
yeah,
stunning.
very good. Um, on to the next one.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so the next one was called. I might butcher this name, but it was called Xenosis.
Xenosis, I think.
Xenosis. Told you I'd butcher it. Which was developed and published, I guess, by Nerd Rage Studios, which is just one dude called Mr. James Stone, and it's funded by the UK Games Fund, so they sort of fund early game development sort of thing. And so this was a top-down, Dead Spacey sort of vibe. Um, what would you call it?
Survival horror?
Survival horror, yeah, yeah. So when you look at it, it kind of just looks like a twin stick shooter, right? But my God, it is not. It is so much deeper than that. It was, yeah. This was amazing. This everything about it was pretty much incredible. The sound design, the everything. Well, I'll get onto that in a minute. So basically, you start off, you're in a little spaceship, and you find this derelict spaceship, and then your little AI is like, "Ooh, there's like a 99% chance of there being some dope loot on that ship." So you're like, "Ah, it's sick." So you fly up to the spaceship, board it, and then obviously in classic alien fashion, shit goes down. So you get on it, and it's for a game that is pixel style, top down. My God, it's so good at scaring you,
Yeah,
right? So very assisted by the sound design as well.
totally.
But you're walking around the ship, and it's limited supply of oxygen, of battery for your torch, of ammo, of everything pretty much, which is your proper old school survival horror. I love it. And yeah, it's got those sort of standard sort of sci-fi horror tropes where you have to go like find the key codes to new doors and things like that. And the enemies, it's basically you're walking along, and like there's this body on the floor, and then the body comes to life in like Dead Space fashion sort of thing. And I thought we saw most of it up until the shotgun room. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
up until that point, I was like, okay, this is really good, but like I need something else. So you might as well explain what happened there, don't
sure. It's worth framing the lighting in particular in this game, although it's kind of a high res pixel art game. The shadow casting and the lighting is phenomenal.
Yeah, that was probably like visually my favorite part about it. I think like
Yeah,
going around a box and seeing the shadow just cast
yeah,
perfectly around it
it was
was,
done
yeah,
really, really well.
definitely, yeah.
So we managed to progress relatively well into the demo. We were doing quite good, and we took turns and managed to get through various doors and puzzles and whatnot. And the James, the developer, kind of taps us on the shoulder and goes, "Take because you're doing quite well. Take that door over there and head into that area that you haven't been to yet." And I turn around and look at him because I'm kind of in the moment here, getting a bit freaked out by the atmosphere and the vibe. I'm like, "You're trying to trick me here." There's. And he's like, "No, no, seriously, go through the door." All right, so I go through the door, and laying on the floor is your classic sci-fi survival horror shotgun laying there with a bunch
Hell
of ammo.
yeah.
We're like, "Oh yes, let's go." So we progress through a little bit further, and we get to a room that's really quite dark and quite terrifying. And again, the sound design is phenomenal. You can really hear things growling and moving around in the darkness, and there are these
Mm.
big thudding, heavy footsteps, right? So,
Oh, we should have mentioned there's a sneak mechanic, by the way.
oh yes,
So.
good point. Good point. You can sneak around. So the creatures in the game are attracted to, it seems, light and noise and various other things that you do in the environment. Um, so in the darkness, just in the peripheral of my vision, we can see this big kind of looming, terrifying thing that's 4 times the size of any of the other strange creatures that we've seen so far. So I'm like, nah. I know I've got a shotgun, but nah, I ain't going anywhere near that thing. So I think we sneak on a bit, and I think we see another one. I think there's 2 in there. I can't remember.
Yeah, there was 2. Yeah.
And we take a little safe passage into a nice, lightly lit room and start looting things and breaking boxes open and whatnot and stocking up, getting ready for this next section. And as we go to leave the one exit, the same exit that we came in from, there's a zombie kind of, what was it? I don't know if you call it a zombie or whatever it was, one of the
Alien.
smaller enemies, just kind of
Yeah.
basically knocking on the door, just walking about. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is the perfect opportunity to use my shotgun. I'm just going to open this door and blast him in the face. So I pop the door open, blast this thing. I'm like, yeah, that felt good. And I go back into sneak mode and start sneaking along, completely forgetting how much noise a shotgun makes, and get charged. I can hear these things getting closer and closer and get charged out of nowhere. And I let out the shrillest shriek I've ever let out and screamed like a little girl.
And even I did, and I didn't even have headphones on. So.
I didn't even realize that you did as well. I
Yeah,
absolutely crapped myself, and it was
yeah, those
such a
things are
hilarious
fast,
moment.
man.
James loved it. I loved it. My heart was pounding. And for a top-down Pixar game to be able to do that is a
Mm.
testament to excellent atmosphere and brilliant, great game design. Like,
Yeah,
so well done.
yeah, it was amazing. It was I can't believe they created that sort of atmosphere from that style.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like that atmosphere should not be that because horror games conventionally it's all about checking your corners and not being able to see what's around you. If that makes sense. So when you turn that into a top-down game, it becomes weirder because you can see further away and you can see
And you can
behind
see behind
boxes.
you and stuff. Like,
Yeah, things like that. So it becomes a bit that takes away lots of aspects. But how he's tackled that with the lighting and with
mm-hmm.
the sound design and stuff is phenomenal. Yeah, amazing stuff.
Yeah, masterpiece.
Good job,
I
James.
cannot
Proud
wait
of
to
you.
play this. Really, really cannot
Yeah,
wait for
so
this.
yeah, I was very sad when I heard it wasn't out till like late next year. I was like,
Yeah,
no.
me too.
But yeah, amazing stuff.
Xenosis. I think it's got a subtitle as well, by the way. I think it's like Xenosis Alien. I feel bad for not remembering it. It's like
Alien
Alien.
Infestation. That was the one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out. Should we go on?
Yeah, go on.
The next one was this one seemed to be really popular. They had it at like 2, maybe 3 different stations. It
Mm.
was a game called Skeleton Crew. I think I'd heard of this beforehand. Developed by Cinder Cone and published by Modern Wolf. I don't know what else they've done. I haven't looked at their history. This was a multiplayer game, quite clearly designed from the ground up to be a 2 to 4 player. I think, yeah, 2 to 4 player side-scrolling puzzle action game. Um, this was an interesting one. It was you start off by selecting one of 4 or 5 different characters. There's like a vampire count type thing. There's a black knight. There's a pirate. That kind of stuff. And it's like I guess like a medieval vibe. There's ghosts and ghouls and skeletons
Yeah, it was
and
playful. It was kind of like
playful. Yeah, it was
reminded me of
playful.
like sort of Castle Crashers style, kind of, but
Yeah,
not as polished.
yeah. It definitely wasn't 100% polished. We managed to break the game twice in our relatively short playthrough, so it does need some work. Um, so you've got your attack. You've got like a special ability per character. Some characters I think can double jump. Some characters can dash. There's a bit of variety there, and I guess later on down the line that might lead to some synergy between characters in certain situations. But the core mechanic, the unique mechanic, was a kicking mechanic. So you could pick pretty much any object up off the ground, be it an enemy's helmet or a skull or a pumpkin or whatever, and hold down a button and then launch it, kind of like a ping
Pinball.
pong, pinball. That's the one, ping pong
Yeah.
ball. And you could use that to break other objects or bounce off things, and it bounced around the environments and whatnot. And you could also kick each other. So one of you could kind of curl up into a ball, and the other person could like kick you into a wall or something. And that was
That was
actually
good
fun.
fun.
That was good
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, it worked pretty well. And
I
yeah,
think it needs some work, but it does look similar to well, it's not similar in any way to Moving Out, but it's that sort of like quick game of this. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
there's no complicated mechanics in it. There's just that fun kicking mechanic, and it's all fairly logical. So
yeah.
I think it could be fun, maybe.
I think it could be fun. I'm worried that they're going to market it. This is pure. Um, I'm guessing here. They might market it as like a full-priced, fully fleshed out game, just because of the amount of presents that they had at EGX.
Mm.
I don't know.
And it's a proper publisher as well, isn't it? So
Yeah, that's my worry. If it comes out as like a £10 pie game, I'm all in. I think it's a good bit of fun to have. Particularly with four players, I think it'd be a lot more fun with four people, and some of the things that you
yeah,
can
yeah.
probably do.
When you have like a massive session on Rainbow Six Siege or something, and you just want to play that little mess
Yeah,
about game afterwards. That's the sort of thing.
sure,
That sort of
definitely.
game.
Yeah, definitely needs some work, but an interesting concept. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Right. So the next one we played was called Eldest Souls, which was developed and I believe published by Fallen Flag Studio. Uh, how do I describe this? So this is like a isometric Dark Souls.
Yeah,
So I don't know how similar to Dark Souls it is in terms of like lots of other things, but the boss, because what we played with the demo was just two boss fights. That was it. There was like nothing in between. You went down a couple of corridors and then it was the next boss fight. So that I don't know if it's just a boss fight game, which I wouldn't have an issue with. I do like those sorts of games,
Mhm.
but like I think it's called Titan Souls, which is like that, which is just boss fights. Um, but it was really polished, really fluid. The combat looked very similar to that of Hades.
Yes,
Is that fair to say?
yeah, I would say so.
So sort of like sliding around and all that sort of stuff. Fairly simple, but it was about timing your attacks and that sort of stuff. The style was amazing.
The
The
pixel art
bosses
was
looked really.
phenomenal.
The pixel artwork was just amazing. um, Yeah, I definitely think it's one to look out for. I don't know. It played really well. It was really polished, I thought. Um, and if it's just loads of consecutive boss fights, I'm well up for it, man. It's very hard to make a judgment as to how excited I am for it when I don't know if it's just boss fights or if there's stuff in between, because the stuff in between could be really boring. So,
Yeah,
is that fair to say?
yeah, I do agree. I think a
What
pure.
did you think of it?
I didn't get as far as you. I only managed to do the. No, I didn't even do the first boss. It was very challenging. It's worth highlighting that it was
Yeah.
really, really hard. And I don't usually play games like that, so I wasn't all that, I guess, familiar with it. But it
Mm.
felt really good to play, and the art style really, really gripped me. I mean, it was one of those ones that we'd never heard of, I believe, and
No, I've never heard of
we
it.
were just walking around and we saw just some people playing it. We saw obviously the banner with the artwork on it, and we saw some people playing it, and it immediately caught our attention. We were like, oh, that looks really interesting. Let's go, and we queued up to play it. So we watched for a fair while, and I saw some other people play it for a fair amount of time, and I think it's one of those games where I think the guy in front of me must have tried the same boss at least 10 times, and he just got a
Mm.
little bit closer each time. I don't know if he did it in the end. I think he gave up and let somebody else have a go. But yeah, I if it's just a boss fight game, I'm really interested to see the development of the bosses, because the two that I saw were completely different.
And the difficulty between the spike between the two of them. You didn't
Yeah,
get to the second one, but
no,
my
but I
god,
saw
the second
somebody
one
doing
was
it.
insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It was
So that
the knight, right? The great
big
knight.
shield
Yeah,
paladin looking thing, yeah. But it looks very. It looks like it could be really good, and it looks like the perfect game for Switch.
Oh, totally.
Like
Yeah,
you
I
know,
can't remember if
like
it's.
just doing a boss fight on a train journey sort of thing. Like that sounds perfect to me.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. Being able to just
Mm.
pick it up and approach one challenge and not worry about how
Yeah,
far to get into
which
the
is
one
why
after that.
I would be more interested if it was just boss fights and not things in between.
Yeah, I think
Which
I would as well. I think I'd really
yes,
enjoy the satisfaction of overcoming each one. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, like you die, then you have to run all the way back to the boss again. It was like instant respawn. Just get back in there, boy, and it's like all right,
yeah,
cool.
and they were like proper
So
5 to 10 minute boss fights. They weren't,
yeah,
they
yeah,
weren't
definitely. Yeah.
pushovers.
With stages like classic Dark Souls, where
Yeah,
like they're easy and then slightly harder and then really hard and then yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I really
but it
enjoyed this
was
one. I really, really liked it.
yeah, same. One of the definitely one of the most enjoyable ones to play. If that makes
Sure.
sense.
Yeah.
Like it was just exhilarating from start to finish, sort
Yeah.
of thing. So
Yeah.
the next one I'm just going to briefly mention this one. We played a game called Spellcasters, which was described as a rhythm action magic arena game.
Yeah. And I'm glad
I
you said
say
that.
described as I kind of described that myself just then, but
I think that's exactly how he described it actually when we sat
pretty
down.
much, yeah.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this one was that it was made from, by the looks of it, university students. We didn't actually get to the bottom of it, to be honest, but
No.
it was said it was powered by Abertay University or something, and their Twitter page seems to focus on that. So if that's the case, it's pretty damn cool, man.
Yeah.
It's like a really fast-paced. Um, it, it's probably closer to like Titanfall than
Towerfall, you mean?
Towerfall. Sorry, yeah, Towerfall than Super Smash Brothers, but it had like that arena feel where you basically have to press buttons in time to the music, and depending on like your combination of buttons you press, you cast a different spell, and you just have to kill each other. That's if this game like I feel like lots and lots of people would be more than happy to pay a few quid for this game
Yeah.
because it would just be like a really good, fun, quick session thing. Like I don't expect to have tournaments on it. I don't expect it to be like this massive phenomenon. It just looks like a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun because we played it. So
It was. Yeah, we
yeah,
played it 4 player with two of, I guess, the developers.
yeah, I think they probably were. Yeah.
And I did get a little bit of background on this. It was actually developed, it was either part of a competition or as part of a school or uni project.
Oh,
So
that's
they had
cool.
to make the majority of the game before a deadline, which they reached. So
Hmm.
that's kind of why it's a limited scope, but they have continued to refine it after that. Um, but yeah, it was cool. It was a bit finicky at first, I found, like trying to work out what the hell to do.
But it took us one game. That was it. Literally took us
Yeah.
a minute and a half, and we were like into it, man. We played like 4 games or something, didn't we? It was good.
Yeah, we played a fair few. You picked it up much quicker than I did. You were winning like the first 2 games. I'm just going to say the developers let you win, but that's fine. But once
Yeah,
once
well,
you do get it, and once you learn how to track what's going on and keep the rhythm going, and learn a few little tricks, there's a lot of little intricate pieces that fit together really well. Like being able
mm,
to knock projectiles away from yourself and intercept things, and the collision between the players works quite nicely for area control. And this is all stuff that's happening on a micromanagement level as you're playing these like 3 minute games. Um,
yeah, and it was intense as well, wasn't it? Like
Super
you played,
tense.
it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
3 minutes, like a couple of minutes each game,
yeah. If that.
and there's just a lot of stuff going on the screen. It's kind
Yeah,
of like that sensory overload, but that's perfect for it. If it wasn't for that, it would be a bit easy because you got these projectiles come towards you, just jump over them or something. But when you got these projectiles coming towards you, and then they suddenly split up into 5 ice shards flying at you, and you've got another poison dart coming from the other direction,
yeah,
you're just like, oh my god!
yeah. It had some
But
flair as well, like a little bit of music
it
going
did.
on and some dancing,
The,
and
the music was quite cool. Yeah, no,
yeah, it was nice.
it was good fun. Like I would definitely be happy to play again.
Sure,
I
me too.
actually kind of miss it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
That sounds weird, but it's sort of like after recording this podcast, we could just be like spellcasters, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
It was good, and the
agreed.
developers were like, I think they were the developers, the 2 people that were there.
Yeah,
They were lovely as well, and
they were. Yeah,
very
they really helped
happy,
us along
chatty, and
and guided us
sitting
into
there
it.
playing with us. Yeah,
Totally.
and it wasn't just like, oh, here's your 1 game trial. It was like, no rematch, no rematch.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, no, good, good blokes. That was good.
Yeah, awesome.
Right, next one.
Next one. This one caught, I think, both of us completely
Yes.
off guard again. This is a game called 10 Miles to Safety, developed by Trick Jump Games. I think the most surprising thing about this is how new and how small the studio is. Like how many people are involved and how many people are following these guys. They had a relatively prominent stand of 4 or 5 PCs that kind of sat by itself. So the game is I think, at a glance, a pretty worn out top down twin stick zombie shooter.
Yeah.
But the premise of the game gets a lot more interesting than that. So the title, 10 Miles to Safety, implies that you have to travel 10 miles in the game world to reach the safe zone. And it takes you a while to get there. So the format is you start in the morning, you progress through this zombie infested town. As the nighttime approaches, things get a bit more dangerous. Super zombies come out and that sort of thing. And you have to build up a defense. And the interesting thing about it is you can go into any building in the game. Some of them are little condos, and you got some 2-story houses and garages or garages and all these different buildings, and you can go into any one and explore them quite freely. There's tons and tons of loot in every corner, like every cupboard you can pull open and look inside. There's loads going on in the streets. There are like policemen running around and civilians running for their lives and zombies chasing them down, and it's kind of intense. But whilst all this kind of gritty post-apocalyptic stuff is going on, it's got this colorful, whimsical, kind of playful feel to it as well.
Yeah, it's kind of got like toyish vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah, I
That
would say
makes
so.
sense.
Yeah, that's a good way
Yeah.
to put it. Yeah. Yeah, very colourful. And it's a 4-player multiplayer game. Um, and it's really, really good. It's so polished.
It is, yeah.
It's so polished. And I'll get to a bit more about the development itself later on. But we walked up to the store, and the guys that were promoting it and talking to us were really, really friendly. And we didn't get to play for very long, or we chose not to play for very long, but we sat down and we were running around, and it's just slick. The user interface is really, really nicely done. Not only is there a huge variety of guns and melee weapons, but you can get attachments for those weapons, and you can get armor and different backpacks.
Yeah, there was a lot of depth to this game.
There's crafting mechanics, there's blueprints, and as the nighttime comes, you are literally putting barbed wire down and building these wooden barricades on the staircases and trying to calculate the best way to defend whatever building you happen to have found in time for the night. And I think we played it and we had a great time, and we expressed our enthusiasm for the game, and they very, very kindly gave us some beta keys, so we got to play it a bit more this weekend, which we quite promptly did because it was great. And later on in the day, we were in Costa picking up a coffee, and we bumped into the 2 guys that we'd spoken to earlier on, and it turns out that this entire game was made by one dude, and that completely blew my mind because
that is insane.
Such an insanely well polished game. The fact that it even
has so much variation as well. I think that's one of the key parts. Is like it's not obviously you're reusing assets of that sort of game. It's like you're running on a conveyor belt. Yeah, so that makes sense. But there's still a lot of variation for one person to have made.
Yeah.
All those vehicles, all those types of houses. The playground. We've just got out of the first biome. We just got to 7.5 miles and got out of the first biome, and that was completely different. We're in like the dockyards, and it's just yeah.
And that took a couple of hours. It gets pretty hard pretty quickly. The zombie level, the infection level, or whatever they call it, does go up quite quickly. So you have to keep on the move constantly. So there is this looming sense of pressure to keep pushing forwards.
But then it's I think that one of the key things about it, the thing that makes it so good, is it's a balancing game.
Yeah.
Because you're like, right, I need to keep moving because this infection level is going up, right? And it's going to get harder and harder, and I need to get to safety. But if I don't loot this place, then I'm not going to have enough loot to be able to survive the next night time. So it's like a constant balancing game between the two. So
you are constantly thinking on your feet and making decisions. Do you stop and help these survivors, or do you go and run for the supply drop?
So by the end of it, we're getting past the as we were sort of getting to the end of the first biome, we were sort of like running along, and it was like, sorry survivors, sorry pedestrians, we're in a rush now, goodbye, just
Um,
running past everyone.
the other moment that really caught me off guard in this was the fact that it has proper friendly fire in it.
Yeah.
That works so well in a game like this.
Hmm.
If you want to, you can, if a civilian's being chased by 50 enemies, you can just finish them off, do a mercy kill. But you don't often do that because ammo's limited and whatnot. There's a lot going on. It's quite an intense environment, but it's really nicely done. And being able to like accidentally shoot your friend in the back really makes you think about how to position yourself and what angles to hold and this kind of thing.
Yeah, that realization of that. I mean, it took us about half a mile to realize. I kept
Yeah.
looking down and being like,
Where's my health
I
gone?
haven't been hit by anyone. What's going on? And that it suddenly clicked, and I was like, that adds so much
Yeah,
to it,
it
because you
really
can't just
does.
hold one angle together anymore. That doesn't
Yeah.
work, because if you're funneled in this one place, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, and for a top-down twin stick shooter, there is quite a lot of precision involved with it. You don't want to waste ammo.
Yeah,
You can get headshots on chance. I think it's based on chance. Um, yeah, and again, the UI is so well done. Just pressing tab and being able to sort your inventory out really quickly in sort of a battle royale style setup, I guess.
no, but this is ridiculous, man. One guy made
One
this
guy,
game, and he
yeah,
has made an inventory UI system which was a million times more polished than bloody blue balls, whatever they're called, PUBG creators, and do you know what I mean? Like, the amount of
yeah,
proper massive developers that have got this wrong,
yeah,
and this one guy's just like, no, you just do that.
yeah,
Like, simplicity is key, especially in those sorts of games, because you're constantly on the move and stuff. I don't want to be sitting there going, oh, okay, I just need to scroll down on the wheel to be able to, screw the silencer on my gun. Yeah,
yeah.
cool. Just a load of crap like that. So
Yeah, it's really fluid. Obviously, it's not perfect. There are a couple of bugs with it, but I think that comes from the procedural generation that it uses. So you can basically run in any direction for as long as you want, and it will keep generating
yeah,
scenery.
it's sort of like a conveyor belt thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and from time to time, an enemy will get stuck on a wall, or you'll get stuck in a room because a cabinet is
Minor
just slipping
things though.
in the way. But there's such minor things for such a
Mm.
well-made game, and it came out today, Monday this week. So
Yeah, so it'll be out by the time this is out.
yeah, I think it's early access or alpha or beta or something, but it's a ton of fun. I highly recommend that one. Is
Yeah, 100%, man. Get on board. Like, we
follow
played
them
it for
on
a couple of
Twitter.
hours yesterday,
Yeah, we had so
and
much fun.
it was so fun.
Yeah,
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 it was such a different game as well. Because if the problem that this game is going to come into is that people are going to look at it and just see another top-down twin stick zombie shooter, because there are
yes,
so many of those out there. Dead Nation, to name a fairly popular one,
mm,
and it's nothing like that at all. Like, it has so much character
yeah,
and so much depth for something like, we're playing it in beta, and we have four characters all with unique abilities, all these weapons, all these upgrades, all these different biomes, all these different events that happen while you're running
yeah. We're
along, all
sharing
these
loot and we're looking for each other, looking out for each other,
yeah,
and
blueprints for it. Was just, yeah, astounding. I honestly cannot believe that one dude made
yeah,
this. Like,
it's mind-boggling. It really is. And
yeah.
the
So
fact
seriously,
they've
go
got
on.
like 80 followers on Twitter, guys. Like they've
Yeah,
got hardly anyone on Twitter, and they had 3 people, including me and Ben, yesterday online. 3 people.
that was it. Yeah,
Like, get on this when it comes out. Seriously, show these guys
yeah.
some
Come
love.
play with us.
Yeah, seriously.
Get it? Come play with us.
Yeah, yeah. 2 slots are open. Let's go.
It's, in fact, tell you what, first person who asks, I will buy you. Oh, genuinely, I will buy you. If you comment on the post that I put up on Facebook later, which just says zombies. Okay, I'm just gonna do a post that says zombies, and then the first person to comment saying "me, please," I will buy you a key for this game, and you can play it. Come play it with me and Dan, because
Wicked.
we need. I need to get some people on this, man, and we got it. We got given the game. I'm happy to give the developer money if it
100%.
means someone else
Yeah,
experiencing it
yeah.
as well. So get on it, guys.
Love that.
Seriously.
I love that. And again, I just want to say, it's one of those games where, sometimes when you jump online with a friend and you just want to put a password on the server or whatever and play with yourselves. Like, with this game, I was waiting for somebody to join us. Like, I was like, it'd be so cool if like 2 more people just randomly jumped
Yeah,
in and
yeah,
started like chilling with us. Like, it's
yeah,
perfectly designed for
definitely.
multiplayer. Can't wait to play
they're
more of this.
such a good game. Yeah.
Yeah, can't wait.
So do you know the developer's name? Obviously, it's Trick Jump Games is
Yeah, it's a
the
good point. I don't know
company
what
name.
the lad's name is. I should find that out and get in
Yeah,
touch.
I'll start talking about the next one and find it out. And ooh, voice
Voice.
crack. Yeah, that's all you. You find it out. So the next game was Summerford, which was basically a big old nod to Resident Evil and Silent Hill. So it atmospherically, design wise, it looked really nice. It had a nice, cool sort of intro, which was like hand drawn. I think by the looks of it, not hand drawn, but like digital drawing sort of thing. And it had a nice style to it. The characters seemed quite cool. The environment was interesting. It's like a island off somewhere in the UK that's like after a nuclear disaster or something. So it's like no one's been there for however many years, and you're like the first people to go back there. And it was really cool. It was really nostalgic in the sense of like like Resident Evil, where you have like each frame, and you move into it from one side and run out the doorway, and then it changes to the next frame, sort of thing. So it's like static frames throughout, and because of that, they've managed to put a lot of detail into each frame, and it looks fantastic. I have to say, for like I think this might be a one-man team, maybe two, but it's called developed and published by Noisy Valley Studios. One of the developers is Daniel Nethersoul, and yeah, I mean, I had a slight quarrel with it. The character, I thought the character moved a bit fast, like their walking speed. They had one walking speed, like no running and walking, just walking, and it was a bit fast. But there was that, and the enemy design I didn't think was amazing because it had really creepy vibes. And then when the enemy came up and it was quite cartoony, it sort of made it it was a bit jarring.
Mm.
I was like, oh, that's not terrifying. I feel like they need to be like quite grotesque creatures or something, a bit more, or more jump scares, or just something a bit more, like fitting with the environment. It sort of the cartoony character that came up was a bit, yeah. But I don't know. That might just be because looks like it's quite early days for this, obviously. So that could just be like a prototype character sort of thing. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I also the it was quite difficult, if I remember correctly. The shooting was quite difficult because you could move at the same time.
Oh, so it wasn't like the original Resident Evils
So
where you had to stop and.
same mechanic. So right trigger to pull up the gun and X to shoot and A to reload or whatever it is. But instead you could still move, so it was a bit jarring on a static frame, being able to move around whilst shooting.
Yeah, I can imagine
Um,
that.
but I mean, again, these are minor things, and it's really early days. But I love the style of it, and I think it could go far if based on feedback and things like that, because it's quite a hard genre to tackle. I think the horror genre is full of lots of snobs like me that like really particular things. Horror is one of those genres where everyone's like, I like ghost horror, I like zombie horror, I like this type of horror. So it's really hard to tackle that entire genre as a whole. But it
It
could
sounded
definitely
like
go somewhere.
Sorry, it sounded like he was listening to feedback and that they were
Yeah,
actually
definitely.
implementing what people were saying into the game and had plans to do a lot of the things that people wanted. So that's quite promising. So one with potential, hopefully.
Yeah.
Good.
It's definitely got potential. Obviously, again, with most of these games, it's got work that needs doing, but very talented in terms of art style and play style. And I love the fact that you guys are making a little nostalgia trip to Resi and Silent Hill, man. Like that's what I need in my
Nice.
life right now. That sort of game. So keep up the good work, guys.
Awesome.
Did you find out the name of the dude?
No, I couldn't find it. The website's a little bit sparse.
That's all right. No worries. The dude from Trick Jump Games, you smashed it.
Yes, you really did. And the rest of the team as well for promoting it and doing such a great job on the floor
Yeah,
and
they were
with
all
everything
lovely.
else.
Yeah. They gave up their weekend for it, so good on them.
On to the next one.
Right. Yeah, go.
So next one's a game that I've actually had my eye on for a while. I did not expect that it would be at EGX though. This is a game called Fractured Minds. It's developed by a girl called Emily Mitchell, who's just 18 years old. She, for this game, or for an early version of it, she won the BAFTA's Young Game Designer Award. And you can see why. It's a first person puzzle game, I guess, where you pick up objects, pick up the key, walk to the padlock and open the door. One of the puzzles is pick up the nail, pick up the tail, and then nail the tail, pin the tail on the donkey.
nail
the tail. That sounds way better. Anyway, but it's a bit more than that. It's an exploration of mental health, and I think anxiety in particular. And straight from the get go, there's a lot of clever little mechanisms that she's used to portray that. So in the first room, you're kind of locked in your bedroom and you need to get out. And you walk up to the door and it basically says you need a key. So go get the key and come back. And you turn around and there's a key sitting on the table in front of you. So you pick up the key, you go back to the door. He goes, that's the wrong key. Sorry, go find another key. So you're like, okay. You go back and you spend the next kind of literally 5 minutes finding like 300 keys. They're just everywhere. And suddenly you've got like this chain of 100 keys and you don't know what to do with them. And it's all a bit confusing. And it does kind of induce some anxiety in you. And eventually you find the last key and you get out of the room. And then you go to like a birthday party scene and you're alone at the birthday party and there's nobody there. And there's lightning crashing outside and you're playing these games by yourself and you blow the candle out and nobody else is around. And it's really quite atmospheric. It's a very, very simple art style. The sound design's pretty good, I must say. I couldn't hear it very well, but you could tell it was quite good. And it's just, it's subtle, but in a really, really clever way. Like, just little things that flash up. It's not jump scares, but it's like things written on the walls and just things in the corner of your eyes. And it does instill some anxiety in you as you're playing it. And everything's kind of metaphorically making you feel a bit isolated. And it's a strange game, but I think it's done really well. And I don't know what her history is, or whether she's developed anything before. This has been picked up by a publisher. Wired Productions have picked this up, and they're going to be publishing it pretty soon, if it's not out already, that is. I think she's done a great job, and for what seems to be a really honest and heartfelt reason and motive. And I think it's on sale or will be on sale.
You said it was like £1.59, didn't you?
Yeah, it's like less than £2.
Yeah.
And I think, if anything, to support the cause that they're going for, I think the money is going to charity. I think.
Yeah, I'm sure you did tell me that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say that for certain. I would double check that, but I'm pretty certain that the money goes to charity. It's super cheap and it's a really well designed art piece. And all the credit to this person. I have had my eye on this for a while. I've seen Reddit posts pop up about it. I've seen her promote it from time to time. And it's all done by one person again, who's, without sounding condescending about it, quite young and has done a really, really marvelous job. So I'm looking forward to playing this. I'm definitely going to pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, for £1.59, especially if all the money goes to charity, that's pretty mad. Like,
and even if it doesn't, I would support that for such a good price and for such a good cause, just to portray mental illness and explore it a bit. As we talked about in the main podcast this week, it's something that I think is quite integral to video games these days. She's done a great job.
Yeah, 18-year-old by herself, smashed it. Good job. I didn't get a chance to play this. I was playing Summerford while Dan played this, but I'll definitely be picking up as well.
Yeah,
give you my full review on it.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it sounded good. So the next game is I played this one fairly briefly because Dan was waiting for these two guys to like complete this game.
They really wanted to play
it, man.
Yeah.
So I went off and played a couple of others, and the first one was Legend of Keepers, which is like a reverse dungeon crawl game where you plan the dungeons for the crawlers. So like you set up your mobs, you set up your it's I should say it's like a turn-based style, like stage style. So like the first stage is there's a trap for the enemies and a blast of a lightning, and the second stage is like a standard turn-based fight between 3-on-3 sort of thing. And then like the 3 people in your team you set up before the dungeon starts, so you can pick between an array of like monsters and stuff and be like, right, I want a gargoyle, a minotaur, and a donkey, and then you do the turn-based battle with them, and then it goes all the way down to the boss. And there's it seems great. I wasn't expecting to like it. I honestly sat down because I was a bit bored because I was waiting for Dan to play this game, and I played most of the other games in the area. So I sat down at this free desk, and when you see those sorts of like tactical games, and you just look at it and you think, ugh, I've seen so many of these, and they're always so complicated to pick up. No, I picked this up in like 10 minutes. Played 2 dungeons, loved it. It had like quite obviously Slay the Spire is a card game, but it was quite similar style to that. So like that pretty bare bones graphics, but really cool like attack move animations and stuff. The animations were really cool. And tactically, it looked really cool as well. Like there were loads of ways. Everyone had weaknesses, and like ice weakness and fire weakness and all that stuff. You could also fear the enemies. So if you see an enemy's got, when you're preparing a dungeon, you can see the stats of the enemies, the dungeon crawlers coming in, and you can be like, right, this one is a bit of a wimp. So in the first one, I'm going to try and get rid of this guy by getting 2 gargoyles that have fear attacks, where you can like decrease their morale, and then you can guarantee get rid of one of their crawlers before the next stage. And it's just loads of depth to it, but really simple at the same time. It's really well done. So I will 100% be picking this up. It's developed and published by Goblin Studio.
Sounds really interesting, that one. There was
it's
a game back in the day that had a similar premise. I think it was called Dungeon Keeper, actually, or Dungeon
that's the one.
Master.
So their thing was a mix between Darkest Dungeon and Dungeon Keeper.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, because that was pretty good from what I remember. But I think in that one you actually built the physical layout of the dungeon, which is what I thought this was going to be. But you're saying it's more. So I didn't see you play this, but you're saying it's more you select the party that's going to fight against the enemies or the dungeon crawlers with each turn. Is that about right?
Yeah, so you basically all right, so you see the 3 so you got the 3 heroes. You got Aragon, Legolas, and Gimli roll up to your dungeon, and you're like, right, I need to set up my dungeon for this, and you have like a set number of spaces to deal with. So you got like four rooms, and then the first room it will be a battle. So you pick 3 enemies to fight the heroes. The next room you can set up a trap, which does a set thing to the heroes. Next room does whatever, another fight or whatever, and then the next room will be the boss battle. So you basically have to try and wean them down as much as you can before the boss and boss wipes them out.
So is it kind of like a reverse version of the dungeons in what's the King game that we played? Gone blank.
Yes, no, exactly that. It's a reverse version of that. Yeah.
What's the game called?
For the King.
For the King. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That sounds pretty cool.
But there seems to be a lot of depth to it. If it has as much depth as I think it has, then I'm well up for it. Like,
sweet. What platforms is it releasing on? Do you know?
I don't. I played this one quite briefly because I was only wanting to play it. What's it called? Legend of Keepers. That's the one. I only played it quite briefly because I wanted to get back to you and see if you play that game. But I still missed most of it. But it's got a 9 out of 10 on Steam already.
Oh. Is it out now? Early access, maybe.
Know.
Cool. All right. Well,
you can play the prologue.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So check it out. Yeah, if you can play the prologue.
Yeah, I might do that. Like, awesome.
But it's really nice. Highly recommend.
I really wish we had more time there.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Next year we're doing 2 days at least.
Totally, 100%.
Right, go next game.
Next one is a game called Recompile. I waited quite a while for this one. Developed by Phi Games or Phi Games. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. And published by D Villagers. Um, I knew about this one and I was looking for it for most of the day actually, because I'd seen various game dev tutorials and some of the shaders and the aesthetic techniques that they were using. And it's a really stunning game. It's got a really interesting visual style. The the premise is that you're a corrupted program running away or trying to escape from a corrupted or a rogue AI or something like that. It's quite abstract. And your character, the corrupted program or whatever it is like a shifting form, humanoid form of blocks of light kind of glitching out. And it's a very kind of glitchy looking game. You know, the environment warps into view as you approach it, and it's a hard one to describe. Um, Very like matrixy, I guess.
Yeah, I
Um,
think from what I saw, it looked like loads of like blocks and panels and stuff, which sort of make up the environment. And as you move around, the environment shapes in front of you. So if you imagine loads of floating cubes everywhere, and
yeah,
then as you run forward, they sort of like quickly ping in front of you, not ping, like float in front of you, so that
yeah,
you have
they like
like a
render
space
into
to
view.
play around.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
got some really
yeah,
interesting visual techniques. And actually, that is a good way of describing it, but it's a bit more. It's prettier than that. It does look really nice. There are some beautiful
yeah.
set
I think
pieces and structures and architecture in this digital, like very digital world.
yeah,
Um,
I'd say the easiest thing to do would be if just look at a trailer or just look at some gameplay or something
yeah,
because
yeah.
it looks amazing. Like
I
this is probably the prettiest game that we played, I
I
reckon.
think so potentially. Maybe apart from until the end, unto the end even, which also had a beautiful art style. But Recompose a
Yeah,
very unique style, and the guys are very active on Reddit. I think I found them initially. I just sort of saw some posting some videos and whatnot. The game itself, sorry, there's four of them, four guys that make this, or four people. Um, the game itself is a third person platformer with puzzle mechanics and a variety of upgrades that you can get, including various types of guns. I think in the demo I played, I had access to a some kind of assault rifle and some kind of shotgun. The enemies are kind of floating geometric forms and cubes and spheres and things, but they're pretty deadly. And there's also mechanics like freezing time, um, double, triple, quadruple jumps, super dashes, and also pausing time to pick up objects like blocks and manipulate them, move them around the environment, and place them to build yourself, say, platforms or things to climb on to get over obstacles. So it's a platformer puzzle game with some action mechanics. Um, for me, the best thing about this game was the aesthetic.
yeah,
Um, the puzzling wasn't. So the guys in front of me were clearly having a bit of trouble. They took a fairly long time to get through it. So I was expecting a really hard game. I completed it in about 8 minutes or so. I got through it pretty quick. Although, granted, I had seen some of the gameplay first, so I had a bit more exposure going into it, I guess. But the aesthetic is really, really nice. The thing that it was missing was a really decent soundtrack.
yeah. I needed it.
It
I mean,
didn't.
I didn't have the headphones, but I imagined that there was some
I
like
don't think
crazy
I heard
electro
any
music in it.
audio at all. I mean, there was audio. I don't think I heard any music.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So a really, yeah, you're right. A really sick electronic soundtrack to kind of add to the ambience of it would have added so much. If it was there, I couldn't hear it, but that was what was missing for me.
Yeah, early days again, though, isn't it? So they
Oh,
could
I spoke to the guys afterwards. Seemed like a good bunch. I think they've still got at least another year of development or so, so it's a long ways off. Um, but they're worth following because what I really, really appreciate about this studio is they tutorialize everything that they do, and a lot of the things that they do are pretty unique in terms of the style and the output, the things that come out of these ideas that they have, and they basically teach everybody how to do the things that they do. and I really like that. I really like I guess, the open source nature of this development process. It kind of fits into the theme of the game pretty well, I think, as well. Um, it was really good fun. It felt great to play, like the actual smoothness of it and the
It
responsiveness
was
of it.
that game was smooth, man.
Yeah,
I was
it was
like
excellent.
solid. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to a finished product. I'm definitely going to pick it up, and I highly recommend people check it out. You know, just look at a trailer, and I'm pretty sure that if you're into that kind of thing, you'll immediately be hooked and you'll want
Mm.
to play it. I spent all day looking for it. Somehow I missed it on the first pass. It was only a pretty small stall, but I'm really glad I waited for it. I'm really glad I played it, and needs a little bit of work, but I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, this does look very good. I didn't get a chance to play it, but it did look very good.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Right. Next game.
Do it.
Oh god, this is the one with the name I can't pronounce. Um,
I wrote a phonetic interpretation for you.
Thanks, man.
I hope that helps.
So the next game I played was called Shady Part of Me by Doos Desium, which is a Paris-based new independent company made up of about 7 people. This is their first game, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. This was a fantastic. This is like the again. I know I say this a lot, but the perfect game for the Switch, right? It it's very okay. Let me basically explain what it is. So basically, you play as a little girl and her shadow not simultaneously. You switch between the two, and they're not. So all of the puzzles revolve around shadows. So you're basically running down a corridor sideways, and then the shadow. Then you press Y and it changes to the shadow, and then you can run across the wall with the shadow. But you need to basically make paths for the shadow to be able to progress. So there's environmental things that you can do, like for example, there was a big not cardboard, wooden box that was making this massive like shadow tower, and I was like, well, what am I supposed to do about that? There's no way that this woman can get past it. The shadow can't get past it because it's way too big. And I was moving it left and right, and it was just way too big. And I was like, what on earth? And then I saw that there was a light in front of it, and obviously if you shine the light in front of it, in front of the box, it basically creates a light path in front of the box. If that makes sense.
I think so.
Can you visualize that?
Yeah.
So if you got a big shadow of the box, and then if you blast a light in front of it, then that gets rid of that shadow. So it basically makes like a tunnel for the shadow to get through.
Oh,
Quite hard to
right.
explain.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah,
So
yeah. So
the
stuff like
dark
that.
spot behind the shadow you can illuminate.
Yeah. So if the light is between the source and the shadow, then that creates.
So what do you mean by move the light? Sorry. So I saw like a couple of clips of the gameplay. It looks stunning,
Mm.
but how do you manipulate the light itself?
Oh, so there's like switches and stuff to turn like different lights on,
Oh, cool.
and
Okay.
and you move these boxes around, and it's really intuitive. No tutorial required. Like
Nice.
there were multiple times in that where I was like, "Oh, I've broken the game," and then you just move things around and stuff until you figure it out. It's one of those really nice games that you don't really need like tutorials or anything, and you just sit there and you just figure it out. And the art style was amazing. I think it had some sort of story to it. I couldn't really follow it because I jumped in like halfway through. Someone else had been playing the demo, and the music was really nice, like sort of piano score stuff. And yeah, highly recommend. And it was just a really pleasant game to play. You just get really lost in it, trying to figure out these little puzzles. And yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it so much.
It
Definitely one of my highlights.
from a distance, because I only saw it from a distance, it reminded me a little bit of Little Nightmares.
Yes, had that a similar sort of
Not as
aesthetic. Yeah,
dark, but the movement and whatnot.
yeah,
It looked really cool.
definitely.
Yeah, I'm
It
really
was
glad I didn't get to play that actually.
yeah. Highly recommend if you can pick up a demo or something, then give it a whirl because it was really fun.
Cool.
Right, you want to introduce the big one we played?
This one is the one we were most excited about. we've been talking. I'm joking. We weren't that excited about it.
I was gonna say, I was like, Dan, bullshit, Dan. We're not excited about it. Jeez.
The last one is a card game called Legends of Runeterra. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think so. But it's the one, the League of Legends one, wasn't it, that we mentioned.
Yeah, the League of Legends universe, Riot Games, Hearthstone-esque card game. They had a huge stand. They were like dead center of the Colosseum with 100 PCs and a constant queue all day long. It was very much a blend of Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering Arena, I thought. It wasn't as fun and whimsical and, I guess, silly as Hearthstone. It had more of the combat-y, military, heavy metalish. Heavy metal isn't the right word, but like it felt a bit more like MTG in terms of the aesthetic, I think. But some interesting mechanics.
Yeah, I don't think we should delve into it too much now because it's
no, that's not.
There's a lot of mechanics, and I think the only thing you really need to know is that it is different to the other games. It's not just a copy of Hearthstone. They've obviously thought about the mechanics, and there is a
I agree.
big, large differences there. You know, it's not really that many similarities apart from the mana system. Apart from that, it's pretty much its own thing completely, I think.
Yeah, the layout of the board and the drawing cards mechanic and the way you interact with it is exactly the same as what people are familiar with. But the rules of the game itself are quite different.
Very different, yeah. But we won't get into it too much now because I think we'll probably talk about it on the actual pod next week because it's probably quite a long one. And besides, Kevin's probably got a few questions about it because he's a League of Legends fan. So, but yeah, like I said, all you need to know, it is different. It's quite stylish. I do like it in that sense, and it's got all the characters from League of Legends in it, and they're cards. They're not characters. So like you can play Teemo and you can play Garen and whatever. So which I thought was quite cool. I didn't really know what I was expecting. Like I was kind of expecting them to be characters, I guess.
Mm.
You know, with like different abilities, kind of like Hearthstone, but it's not like that at all. But so yeah, that was everything we played, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got through all that in a day. It's not bad, is it?
Yeah, it was pretty damn good. And we roamed around the place. I nearly bought the Resident Evil 2 board game.
Saw the computer game show do their live thing.
Yeah, we saw the computer game show do their live podcast, which was fun. Got a little gate crasher there, which was really funny.
Yeah, we caught that photograph. That was good.
Oh, did you know, Dan? You know he was shouting security as a joke.
Oh, yeah.
They actually called security.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, but it was such a good day, man.
It was a brilliant
If you haven't been to EGX, just go. Don't be afraid of the crowds. It's really not. Like if you've been to Comic-Con, for example, and you're thinking about EGX and thinking, no, so that is not even close.
As soon as you put the headphones on and sit down and play a game, you completely forget that anybody's standing behind you anyway.
Yeah, and it's not, but it wasn't even that crowded. You could easily make your way from one end to the other. Like a Comic-Con takes you about half an hour to walk through it because it's just millions of people and swords and wings and all that.
True that, yeah.
But yeah, highly recommend. It was an amazing day with some amazing games. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick our top 6. And I was going to random number generator as to who goes first, but I'm just going to give Daniel the honour of picking our
number one. That's so hard though. It's between 3 games, I think.
All right, don't tell me which ones. Go on, have a think. We need to have like the countdown timer on here or something.
I think it has to be Unto the End.
Yes. All right, I'm so glad you said that. Yes.
Yeah, we've spoken about it already, obviously, but it just stood out, I think, as one of the more unique games, and it just felt amazing. It felt
very personal.
It did. Well. Yeah, it did actually. Yeah. The fact that we had slightly different adventures in that like 8-minute demo was a testament. Yeah, Unto the End was absolutely brilliant. I cannot wait.
Yeah, and the creators were lovely as well. And
yeah,
it was.
I think every creator that we met was actually every developer that we met that was excited about their game was genuinely a pleasure to be with and spend some time with. And Yeah.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
So Unto the End is our number one, or
Unto the end. That's our highlight. Our number one highlight of EGX. But we're gonna do our top six just because
yes.
it would be impossible to just pick one because there's so many good
Yeah,
games on it.
we talked about doing a top three or a top five or a top one, and
It's just
it's
yeah,
impossible.
it's
There's
got
so
to be
much good
top
stuff.
six. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my okay, can I give an honor, like, what do they call it? Honorable mention.
They might come up as no. You have to pick one because
Okay.
at the end of the six, you can pick an honorable mention if they don't get mentioned.
Okay. Cool. Number two. This is hard.
It
This
is,
is
isn't
really
it?
hard.
There's some really good stuff.
It's between two.
Yeah, I think I know which two they are because I'm going to pick the one that you don't pick. I think.
It's got to be 10 miles to safety.
Oh, okay.
It has to be.
Yeah, no,
It's the fact that one person has made this
yeah,
game. Like, obviously, I'm not saying it's a complete masterpiece, but one person has made this really, really solid game. And it's really unique from other sort of top-down zombie shooters. It's
Mhm.
got so much depth to it, and it was, and the fact that we've come home and played it and loved it still, and it wasn't just the hype of the moment. Like,
Yeah,
we genuinely really loved the game. So,
yeah.
yeah, that
Get
Trick
into
Jump
that
Studios smashed it.
7.5 mile mark was such a satisfying moment.
Yes.
That was brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't explain it, did we? No, I'm not
Should
gonna.
we?
No,
No, let's not.
no,
Let's
because
not.
I want people to play this. No.
Push through though, guys.
Yeah.
Just push through.
Yeah. Cool. So Dan, number
Good choice.
3.
I'm fully on board with that. Number 3, straight up, is Xenosis.
Yeah.
Those are our top 3. Like Xenosis, yeah, absolute
Yeah,
masterpiece.
that was
of
amazing. Yeah.
atmosphere and sound design, and I haven't been scared by a game like that for as long as I can remember. And I mean that, like that. I know it was a jump scare, but it was combined with the atmosphere and the setup of it. And for me to scream like that in front of an audience as well, mind you, like there were people standing all around me, and I literally shrieked. Yeah,
Yeah.
that did it for me. It's
I
just
think it
so
was
well
also
made.
the fact that it wasn't a scripted scare.
No,
Like, it happened
didn't feel
because
like
of
it
what
was
you
at
did
all.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah, amazing stuff. Again, made by one person. You nutter,
yeah. I think he
Mister
might be.
Nutter
I think he might work
Gemestone.
for Unity Games, or at least be involved with Unity.
Yeah, that's what the other guy said, didn't he? That because he works on Unity all day
Yeah.
at work and then does this in the evenings.
So this guy knows what he's doing. He's done a
Yeah, and you
marvelous
can
job on
tell he knows
this.
what he's doing.
Yeah,
Like, it's polished, like,
yeah.
really good.
It's
Yeah.
remarkable.
So yeah,
Those
good
are our top
job.
3.
That's our top 3. So number 4. Oh God, it gets even harder
Yeah,
now.
it does.
Okay, that's done.
Boom.
Oh, is that the? Oh shit. Okay. I am gonna say. You know what? I'm gonna say it. So that. And number 4 is Spellcasters.
Oh, that's a
I'm going
curveball.
with that just
That's
because.
a proper curveball.
Yeah, no, just because I'm thinking about what I had the most fun playing and what I could imagine myself playing, like, and definitely enjoying.
Yeah.
And I think Spellcasters is up there. And again, it's made as part of a timed thing. And, like, I've seen you do game jams and stuff, and I have a lot of respect for people that do that sort of stuff. And yeah, I just think they're definitely worthy of some credit in that sense for making something that fun.
Yeah. It was a bit. The first game that I played, I felt like it was a bit all over the place. I'm the just a little point out to the dancing animations as you load into the map, and all like
Yeah.
me and you were sitting there in our chair, like bobbing back and forth and
Boogieing,
getting into it.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. It was the second or third game that, for me, it just clicked suddenly,
Yeah.
and
No,
I just wanted to
exactly.
play more. I wanted to master it, and I wanted to just like work out all those little mechanics and get really.
Yeah, they could bring that out with, because it's quite a simple sort of look in terms of, obviously, the hardest parts of those games. I presume you might have to correct me, Dan, is the animations and the character, like, movement and stuff. But in terms of just making a pixel art like Arena, for example, that's not the hardest bit, is it?
Oh, they could do some really interesting maps, and they could have interactive environments and things
Yeah,
falling from the
that's what I
sky.
mean. So
And
if they brought this out with like 20 odd maps or something, all with one gimmick on each one sort of thing,
yeah,
it could be so much fun.
yeah.
I'm well off playing
Oh
it
man,
again.
I'm glad
So
you said that. Actually,
yeah,
it hadn't popped into my mind like looking at the list, but now that you've said it, I'm really glad you have because
it's the one I'm most confident that I will enjoy
awesome.
100% of all the ones that I have left in my head, sort of thing. That's the one I'm most confident that
Yeah,
I'm pretty much guaranteed to pick it up when it comes out,
I
unless it's
mean,
like
yeah,
crazy
it's like
expensive. So
and what all those sorts of games like Gang Beasts and maybe Towerfall to an extent, they're
mm,
awkward to play, but in a way that's fun and silly, and you're like shouting at the controller a little bit in your
yeah,
head.
yeah,
It's not like click and point and press a button. It's
yeah,
very much like back and forth and looking back at the controller or the corner. It's a silly party game, and you can imagine a load of people at a party having some drinks and just really getting into it. So
yeah.
yeah,
Like playing a drinking
100%.
game, loser
Yeah,
takes a shot.
yeah,
I don't know,
I can
like, it
really
just looks like
imagine
a lot
that.
of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome stuff. I'm glad you said that.
yeah,
What are we on now? Number 5.
yeah. It's the last two.
Okay. It does get really, really hard because there's so many games here that were so good that it would be a shame to leave out.
Mm.
Um, I'm gonna say you've gone for a smaller. Oh, but there's so many. There's a few here that I really, really don't want to miss out because they were excellent. But I am gonna say moving out
Okay.
because I know it's like a bigger game by a slightly bigger production team,
Mm.
but in terms of the pure unadulterated fun that you can
Yeah.
have with it,
Quite literally, yeah.
it really just hits the spot. And I've never
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
Overcooked, so I don't know how it compares to Overcooked, but
Oh man, you have to play it. The only
I
problem, you
imagine
have to
it's
play it
similar.
with someone. That's the only issue.
Yeah, I don't have any friends. That's going to be hard. So I might not. Play.
Maybe we
I'm
should have
joking.
got it instead of Cuphead.
Yeah, well, Cuphead's great. We need to finish that. But
Yeah, we
moving
do.
out was great. Team 17
Yeah.
were obviously a great studio. There are several other games on this list I wish I could have picked. Um, but my last one will have to be moving out. Just I think it was the most fun.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope you're on board with that one, Ben.
No, I am. That was going to be my honourable mention, actually. So,
Oh, okay, cool.
um, oh, my number 6. My number 6 is going to be one of two games, and I really can't decide which one.
I know what I want you
um,
to say, but I'm not going to try and influence you.
all right, I'll just pick what you want me to say then. Shady Part of Me.
It's not what I wanted you to say, but yeah, fair enough. Because I haven't played it, I don't know what it's like.
What was you going to say? Recompile?
No, I was going to say Elder Scrolls.
Oh, really? Okay. The only reason I'm not very certain as to what the actual game's going to be like. The boss fights were cool, but I don't know what the game's going to be like. So, um, I love a good indie game, which is really unique. And of all the games that I played, apart from maybe Spellcasters, Shady Part of Me was probably the most unique. And it was just a lovely game, and I'm really, really excited to play it. Like it's a proper, like especially if it comes out on Switch. I think it's coming out on Switch, but
Good.
when you just lay there in bed, stick your headphones in, and just play half an hour or so, and it's just such a lovely atmosphere and lovely game. And yeah, that's our number 6.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that one.
Hmm.
Cool. So that's our 6. And again, it is genuinely a shame. Recompiled was great. I would have loved to have brought that in. Elder Souls.
To be honest, every game we played was good in their own right. There
Yeah.
was nothing we played that was particularly bad. You know,
No.
they all had a target audience sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good job, every single person that we've talked about today. like you smashed it pretty
Genuinely,
much.
yeah, we had such a good time, and meeting all of you guys and playing all of your games was such a good experience.
Mm.
And best of luck with all of your launches. Like, we really hope you get there soon, and can't wait to
we're
play
gonna be
pretty much every single one of these.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're going to be observing you guys like hawks because we want to know what's happening with these games, man. Like,
yeah, seriously,
some of these games in particular, I'm very much excited for, and
awesome.
And yeah, I have to say, our top 3, perfect.
Yeah, exactly what I had in mind for my top 3.
Yeah,
amazing. I'm glad we're on the same wavelength there.
But what was my number 2? Oh yeah, definitely. Perfect, cool. So that is the end of our EGX special.
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop indeed, Mr. Daniel. Thank you everyone for listening. And that's it. There's no like sign out or anything. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a special podcast. I'm not going to sit here and faff about anymore. We're done. This is the end of the podcast.
Yeah, that's it. Bye.
Pickle Squad out.
Laters.